Plugged in together, here's what's new. From a co-op straight to you. Helpful info to keep you in the loop.
Hello, and welcome to this month's episode of In the Loop. I'm your host, Tiffany Trueblood, and today we're going to talk about something that most people have to do, and it can seem a little daunting: home buying. Everyone talks about curb appeal and countertops, but what about the things that impact your monthly budget for years to come? Today, we are talking home buying, from financing and finding the right fit to the energy-efficient features that can help keep your costs down for the life of your home. Today, I am joined by some experts in this field, because I am not an expert. Joined by Claudia Cieslar, who's the Executive Officer of the Home Builders Association of Midwest Georgia, and Makinley Cook, who's the branch manager from Guild Mortgage, and our very own Scott Lee, the manager of Residential Energy Services. Welcome, y'all. Hello.
Hello.
All right. Before we get started, if you can, just give your name and a little bit about you, and so our audience gets to know you a little bit, and then we are going to go down this journey.
I'm Makinley Cook. I am the branch manager at Guild Mortgage. Our office is located in Noonan, but we service all of Georgia. We can do Alabama and Florida also. I have been in the mortgage industry for about 10 years now, so very well versed on the ins and outs and the comings and goings of everything, loans and programs and just anything you really needed to know.
Okay. And I'm sure nothing has changed in 10 years, right?
Oh, I mean, yes, it's gone crazy and then back down and then crazy again. So we're just all over the place.
Well, we'll get to that in just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Claudia Cieslar. I'm the Executive Officer with the Home Builders Association. I've been in this field for about 3 years now. I just celebrated my 3-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And my job is to watch the market just like McKinley, but also educate people. And we do a lot of advocacy. We do a lot of licensure credentials to help people get back into trades. Workforce development is a huge aspect as well. So I am not a Georgia native. I moved down here from Ohio, but my dad owns a very successful HVAC business, which is how I got into the trades.
Awesome.
Scott Lee, I work here with Coweta-Fayette EMC. I've been here, 10 years now. Been in the home energy efficiency industry for almost 25 years. My role here at Coweta-Fayette EMC has us going out and looking at existing homes for energy efficiency, but also doing evaluations of new homes for how efficient they are.
All right. Well, let's just get on into it. So, Claudia, we'll start with you. What are you seeing right now with new construction? You know, the market, everybody's always talking about the market. So what are buyers leaning towards? Are they going more to building new homes now? Or, because I know there was a big boom after COVID, everybody and their brother was building a house, it seemed like. So are people still doing that? Or are they looking more at existing homes?
So buyers are weighing in both options a lot more carefully than they were a few years ago. Existing homes still have a lot of appeal, especially if people want to move into something quickly, if time is a constraint for them. However, we are starting to see a trend of the younger generation looking at new construction, especially because they're considering their ROI. With a new home, you're getting, modern building standards, improved energy efficiency, fewer maintenance concerns, things like that, which is something that people are starting to pay attention to in the current trends. One thing that we recently discussed at our economic forecast back in March is that affordability tends to be the biggest issue right now and the biggest concern for home buyers. It says that the economy is still expected to experience moderate growth over the next couple of years. However, families are still continuing to enter the market, and builders often have to adapt to what is happening in the market.
And I would just say, from the constraints of like existing versus new construction, I feel like has a easier way or a better route of giving concessions that existing properties don't. So when we're looking at like the mortgage side of things, obviously you have closing costs, and closing costs can be a lot on top of your down payment. So new buyers are looking at the new construction and saying, oh, well, these builders are giving me $20,000 in incentives. Most of them don't understand that they're putting that incentive into their purchase price, but they're still getting that money. And regardless, $20,000 added to your mortgage over time is a lot less than $20,000 coming out of your pocket when you don't have it.
Yeah.
And so that is a big plus of new construction, is that they have this ability to give those higher concessions, which helps the buyer get into the home with maybe a little bit lower of an interest rate or without having to come out of so much out of pocket. So that's what I would say in terms of existing versus new construction. They just have a little bit more leniency in what they can give to the buyer.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds, I mean, yeah, $20,000 out of most people's pocket starting off is a little daunting. So.
Right.
Okay, let's go on that too, Makinley. So what would you say is some of the biggest misconceptions buyers have about interest rates and affordability right now?
So I think most of them think that the rates are going to come down, which we have been saying that for a very long time now.
We really need them to come down.
Yes.
Are you saying?
I'm not saying that they won't come down. I just am saying that the realistic forecast of what's going to happen over the next really even 3 to 5 years is rates may come into the fives, back into the fives. And we've seen them fluctuate over the last year of high sixes, mid sixes, high fives, back up to high sixes within a matter of 6 months, honestly. But do they get back into the low fours? Honestly, I mean, probably
it was
not.
fun while it lasted.
Right. If they do get back into the low fours, it's going to be probably something traumatic that's happened to our world as a whole to get us back there. And the misconception is that a 6.5 versus a 5.5 is going to save you this astronomical amount. And it does save you money. And over a 30-year loan, it saves you a ton of money. But most people don't keep their houses more than 6 to 10 years max. I mean, most, especially first-time home buyers, are not staying in a home for 10 years. So you're thinking about, okay, a 6.5 versus a 5.5. Let's just say, I don't have the numbers pulled up right here, but let's say a $200 savings a month. It's not more than that on a $350,000 house. So honestly, people are spending $200 at Chick-fil-A in a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're spending on frivolous things, and then we're thinking, oh, we can't buy a house because my rate's not 5.5. But when you really look at the numbers, if you cut back just a few of the little extra things that we all really love, you can get into a home. And honestly, most of the time having a home and investing in that future for yourself is more important than the little things that you had to cut out to maybe make that extra tweak.
Are you seeing people kind of get, I kind of call it like interest rate paralysis? People are just kind of terrified that I'm just don't want to move. Are you seeing people kind of like, because it's been a couple years now of 6 to 5 to 6 range. Are you seeing people finally just kind of being like, okay, this could be the new normal. That's maybe I haven't pulled the trigger, but now it's time to pull the trigger? I
would say so. I think they're tired of waiting. I mean, if you kind of follow social media, realtors and mortgage people and things like that kind of went into the date the rate scenario for a little while, because we honestly really did feel like rates would come back down pretty quickly, but that has not been the case. So to continue to tell people like, oh, well, the rates might come back down, yes, they may come back down, but you shouldn't be betting on that. What I tell buyers just in general, first time or second time or third time or whatever they're doing, you just need to be comfortable with your monthly payment. If you're comfortable with your monthly payment, it doesn't matter what your interest rate is. Because as long as you're making that monthly payment, you're putting into your future, you're getting equity in that home. On that point, I don't think that prices of homes are going to come down significantly. So at least if you buy a house right now, you're not going to lose your money. I think for a little bit of time, people were thinking that the market was going to like shift way back down because we saw in COVID the big increase of like, hey, my home was $150,000 in 2019, and by 2022 it was $350,000. And people thought, oh, well, if I buy right now, my house is going to go back down. It may go back down $10,000, $20,000, but I don't see a big shift of like, hey, we're going from $350,000 to $250,000.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like that's kind of led to a clog in people in housing availability? People are holding on to their homes, so therefore there's not as much gain on the market for that first time home buyer, because the people who bought it are, you will take this 2.7 rate from a cold dead hand.
Right.
Do you guys see that in trying to find something for those first time home buyers, or is that maybe what's helping the construction side?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think it's really improved the construction side of it.
Yeah. One thing that I was going to add to that was just that something that I have noticed is not only is the rate lock-in kind of what people are looking at, but when they purchased their house, probably pre-COVID, it was under a certain amount of, amounts that they bought. And then since it's acquired value, right? So they're kind of put off, I've seen, of when they then go to purchase a second house, because the money that they made from the house goes straight to the added cost of what they're looking at now. And kind of seeing those numbers as a whole is something that people are a lot more conscientious about, especially the younger generation, those people that are getting out of college, establishing careers, not quite having families just yet. Well, and a lot of the things too that people don't consider is when they buy an existing home, they now have quite a bit of work to put into it because it's not necessarily up to code, or maybe that previous owner didn't take care of it. So new construction we had a period where it did take off. Now I think it's slowed down a lot with the current market. As Makinley mentioned, people are having this interest rate paralysis, like you said, where they're waiting until the perfect time to buy, which there's never really a perfect time to buy. I mean, I'm learning that. I'm currently in the same statistic where I don't have kids and I'm renting a home, but it might be a lot more affordable next year to actually get a home. I think that we're still dealing with like longer term housing shortage, and the demand continues to outpace the supply in, the communities that we have.
Kind of off of that, I think a lot of people, especially with house prices, they went so high, and people like that interest rate paralysis, whatever. What would you say to somebody's like, I'm just want to continue renting? So let's go. Do we want to tackle the whole rent versus buy discussion and how that plays into, because like you said, equity in a home versus renting. So let's go ahead and open that can of worms and talk about the opinions or the optics of renting versus buying a home.
Right. And really over the last few years with the interest rates going higher, I do think there is still this misconception that their mortgage will be less than their rent. That's really not the case anymore. They may be similar, but again, you may be buying a home and the monthly payment's $200 or $300 more than what your current rent is, but you're paying for your own future. You're not giving that money to a landlord and then not having anything to show for it in 5 years. Whereas in 5 years, if you buy a home, you may be able to make $10,000 or $15,000 off of that home to help with your down payment on the next home. So I still think even though renting is probably cheaper than owning a home at this point, it makes more sense to buy the home and invest in yourself rather than investing in someone else.
Yeah. Okay. What do first-time home buyers usually underestimate about the whole process?
I want to go with the positive side of this. Yeah. So I think most people come in like thinking it's going to be so hard, and then they kind of overestimate that part and underestimate, honestly, how easy it is. Honestly, if you're a qualified buyer with good credit, you get decent income, and can turn in some documents, can print your bank statements and W-2s, the process is not that hard. There is underwriting, and you have to kind of go through the answering of the questions. And sometimes a document gets lost and you might get asked for it a second time, and that can be frustrating. But honestly, most of the time, my buyers at the end of the day, they say, I really didn't think this was going to be that easy. I can't believe I get to own a home. Yeah. So I think that's the underestimation, is just that it is so possible, and that most people are just so scared they don't take the leap to just ask the questions. And honestly, if you just talk to a mortgage professional, they can answer most of your questions and kind of take away that nervousness and that fear, and you can really buy a home. And if you're not ready, most mortgage professionals will take the time to help you get ready.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do a quick tip lightning round real quick. All right. So Claudia, I'm going to start with you. What's one mistake buyers make when choosing a home layout?
The buyers typically buy for today instead of thinking from 5 to 10 years from now. My biggest piece of advice would be to ask yourself how you'll actually live in the home. If you plan on your family growing, will you work remotely? Do you often entertain? Choosing a layout that fits your lifestyle long-term matters much more than picking the trendiest finishes.
All right. Makinley, your lightning question. Okay. What is one financial mistake you see most often?
Credit. I mean, credit is the biggest factor in getting a home. It doesn't matter if you have $200,000 to put down on a house. If your credit is a 400, I cannot give you a loan. So credit is it's the hardest thing for everybody. My biggest advice would just be make your payments on time. It's sounds so easy, but it's so hard for most people. I mean, even just somebody who regularly makes their payment, they go on vacation and they forgot to make the car payment. I mean, now we have auto draft, which I know that's some people are against auto draft, like, oh, but if you miss that car payment, one late payment on your credit can take your credit from a 650 to really a 550.
Wow.
I mean, so credit, making those payments on time, biggest tip you can do, just make your payments on time.
All right, Scott, we're going to come to you on the energy efficiency side, especially. What is one overlooked cost in a home when people are buying that they overlook?
What's the monthly utility cost going to be? Going into a new home, it's hard for you to know that because nobody's lived in the house yet, but a builder there are tools they can use to give you a projection on what that's going to be. So asking that builder, if you're looking at a new house, what do you guys project the energy cost to be? On an existing home, going to that homeowner and saying, hey, what have you guys been paying every month on your utility bills? Don't necessarily need to know every month, I guess, but what's your highest bill in the summer and your highest bill in the winter? Because you're going to pay those bills every month, and you need to know what they're going to be. That's the biggest one.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll just keep going with you because you sound like you're on a roll. So,
well, and I was going to kind of put into that when you're looking at a mortgage, your monthly payment only consists of your principal and interest, taxes, insurance, and most of the time private mortgage insurance if you're not putting down 20%. So people aren't even thinking about the fact that, okay, well, my monthly payment's $2,000, but now I have my water bill, my electricity bill, my cell phone, my this. So you just took your $2,000 bill and now you're at $600 more a month when you add all that in. And people just don't think about that. So like he said, that is a huge tip. Figure out what those utilities are going to be, because if you're already on the fence about your $2,000 a month payment, adding in a huge utility bill could really be costly to your monthly savings.
Yeah. All right, Scott. So why should buyers care about energy efficiency before they buy and not the after?
Kinley just hit on it. You're on the fence. You're close on that monthly mortgage. And then you got the utility cost to figure in. Well, that utility cost, depending on how much your mortgage is and what that cost is, that can be as much as 20% of what your mortgage is every month. And that, if you don't stop and think about that, it could really mess up your monthly budget in a hurry. So you really do need to take that into consideration. Now, looking at an existing home, and that utility cost is there, yes, but also need to be looking at how old is that HVAC equipment? How old is that water heater? Because those are two big costs that you may have to take on pretty quickly in an existing home if you're not looking at that. And you talk about messing up in a budget in a hurry. When you got to replace some HVAC equipment, and let's say you don't have just one unit, you went for that bigger house because you're right on the edge. You can make it work, and it's got two systems. Oh man, now you're in a big mess. But both of those go out at the same time. So you've really got to think about those utility costs and the cost to maintain where those utilities are at, and that's equipment.
Okay. So what are 3 things buyers can quickly check when touring a home that would impact their energy costs? What's some things that people can, we look at the countertops and we look at the flooring and all that, but what are the, they're not quite as exciting, but what are some 3 things they should look at when they're touring a home?
I already hit about one of them, or 2 of them, I guess, would be the age of the HVAC equipment and the water heater. Yeah, you can put your eyeballs on it, right, and kind of get a feel for how old it is. But getting up there and getting that little supercomputer we all carry around in our pocket and taking a picture of that nameplate on the outdoor units and the nameplate on the water heater. So you don't have to concentrate on that when you're looking at all this stuff at the house, but you can go back and get on the World Wide Web later on and you can figure out how old that stuff is. And that'll give you an idea. That HVAC equipment's in that 15 to 18 year range. You better start rubbing your nickels together. You're going to need some quarters soon. And the same thing with that water heater. You got to be ready for those stuff. So look at the age of that equipment, age of that water heater. And then this is one that I don't think a lot of people think about, but how is that moisture being managed around that house? All right. Does it have gutters? Is it downspouts carrying that water away from the house? When I look at the yard, can I see what looks like a water flow of water coming towards the house? And that's going to be a maintenance thing, but it's also going to be a humidity control issue in the house. So that could lead to higher utility bills because you're running the HVAC more. You're running a dehumidifier to control that interior moisture. It leads to building rot, decay. And this leads to more repair costs down the road. But hopefully we keep our fingers crossed this doesn't happen. But it can also lead to trips to the doctor's office because you've got an exposure to mold and mildew. And that's not just on old homes. Okay. They can be on new homes too, guys. Watch out for that moisture management because it's not always something the builder's thinking about. Oh, and another thing related to controlling moisture around a house is if the house is on a crawl space, stick your head underneath there and make sure that the ground is covered with plastic. That'll help. It'll go a long ways to keeping the moisture levels down inside your house.
Okay. What about insulation as well? Does insulation type matter? Like whether it's foam or the old, Pink Panther, pink cotton candy, or is it because everybody say, oh, foam, because everybody gets excited, something new. So what about insulation in a home? What should they look for?
Yeah, it's again, that's going to be it's a tough one to answer. But let's say your HVAC equipment's up in the attic. You got that air handler and the ductwork's running up there. Then sure, you got a foamed roof line. That's awesome. But if the HVAC equipment's not up there, then don't worry about the roof line being insulated. Just make sure that your home inspector noted what the insulation level was. Okay, on a new built home, they're having to meet the energy code. That energy code today is so much better than what it was 25 years ago. We got to think about in Georgia until 1998, we didn't have a building code on the energy efficiency side of things. Okay,
really?
It didn't exist.
No.
Wow.
So you're buying a new home, the insulation level should be there. But on an existing home, make sure the home inspector is looking at that. That's a good point.
Especially before 1998 then, right?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to kind of add to that with the home inspector when you were talking about making sure you're looking at the things. The good thing is if you are just really excited, you're pre-approved and you get to buy your home and all you did was go in and look at how amazing the inside of the house looks and you're like, oh no, I'm listening to this now and I didn't look at the HVAC and I didn't look at this. That's really what your home inspector is for.
Yeah.
So as long as you're getting a home inspection on that home and you're picking a reputable home inspector, they should be telling you, okay, the HVAC is 10 years old. The roof is 15 years old, things like that. And that will really kind of save you in the long run. And then you can go in and luckily, well, I won't say luckily, but if you're a buyer in this market, it's luckily for you. The sellers are having to give concessions, especially on existing homes. So it may be something that you can go in then after the home inspection's done and say, hey, we looked at this. The HVAC is 15 years old and it's going to conk out here soon or whatever the age of a HVAC needs to be. And you can go in and say, hey, we would like either $5,000 off the price, or we would like you to contribute $5,000 in closing costs so that we can make that improvement once we buy your home. So just because the things are older doesn't technically mean you don't need to buy the home. It just may mean that you need to ask for those things so that the seller is taking their responsibility of the fact that they lived in the home for 30 years and they haven't had to have a new HVAC. That doesn't technically need to be the buyer that didn't live in it's responsibility, especially in this market. So don't be scared to ask for those things. The worst thing that can happen is they say no. And if you really, really love the home, you can say, okay, well, we can put it on the credit card after closing. Not before. We can put it on the credit card after closing and get our new HVAC. But you can't ask for those things once you get your home inspection done.
Okay. If you do buy an existing home, because that's what's best for you, and you need to have work done, it's probably not the best time just to do a Facebook post and ask for somebody's cousin's brother's uncle company and looking for the cheapest option. It's probably best to go for a certified or insured, like what the Home Builders does, correct?
Yes, it should be well known, but I can't tell you how many calls I get about this. If you buy an existing home and you need work done, please use somebody that's licensed. And insured. And that's selfish plug, but call us. It takes me 2 minutes to check. And usually 9 times out of 10, I know all the remodelers or the subcontractors that do the work. And I also issue their hours for their licensure. So I know if they're legit, because we get so many calls and I see so many posts, of people like, hey, and then you have all this additional cost that you didn't anticipate to fix the mess.
So Claudia, we talk a lot about new homes being built today. Apparently, especially since way past 1998, which in my mind is still only 10, 15 years ago, but no, it's a lot farther back.
Let's just say 2000.
From the late 1900s.
That's a great way
So
to say
how
it.
are new homes being built today? They're more energy efficient compared to those older homes, apparently, since now we have more codes and things, but what
Sure.
are they looking at and doing more in these homes?
So obviously the building industry has changed tremendously over the last decade. I don't know if you know this. I read this on a magazine. I can't remember which one it was, but it was from like a housing index or something like that last year, where the average home buyer only stays in the home for 7 years, which is crazy. But keeping that in mind with new homes and energy efficiency, like I said earlier, there's a current trend on people starting to make that shift of noticing and being more conscientious about being energy efficient. Today's homes are built with better insulation than before. New products are coming out that may have necessarily not been around in the 2000s. And, you're seeing a lot more energy efficient windows, higher performing HVAC systems, better moisture control, appliances that consume less energy, all those things. Many buyers don't see how these small little improvements can help save them hundreds of dollars a month or even thousands sometimes, depending on how big your home is. And it makes the house more comfortable year round. And affordability isn't just about, the purchase price. It's also about what it costs to live in the home every month. Having lower utility bills can make a difference for families a lot. I think there was also a surge not that long ago of people doing solar panels. Mm-hmm. Scott probably might know more about that than I would, but we've seen people do that where people are now relying on lowering their energy bills that way as well.
Okay. Scott, do you want anything about solar?
Can solar lower your energy bill? Sure. Is it going to eliminate the check that you send to us every month? No. Okay. It's not going to happen. So
here's my question for you, Scott. Would you spend $6,000 to $10,000 to put the solar panels on the roof?
If they only cost $6,000 to $10,000, sure. But when you're looking at more like $60,000, no. There's other things you can be spending your money on to lower your utility cost than over putting solar panels on top of your roof.
Perfect. Especially if you're average person staying in the house for 7 years. Mm-hmm. So your ROI on that's probably not. I mean, I'm not good at math at all.
No.
Kinley can speak to this better than I can, or when a prospective home buyer walks up to a house and it's got solar panels on the roof, is that something that attracts them or kind of makes them hesitant? I don't know the answer to that, but I've often been curious about that.
I don't really know the answer to that one because I do just the mortgage side and not really the realtor side of it. But I will say from me looking at credit reports, most of the time when I see a lien, it's some type of a second house lien. And I'm like, what is this? It's only $10,000 or whatever it is. And they're like, oh, it's what's left of our solar panels. Mm-hmm. So I will say a lot of times the people that I have seen that have had those have a payoff that they're still paying on for the solar panels. So I don't know here or there if it's worth it or not, but I will jump into the mortgage side of it because that had been one of the questions. Mm-hmm. There are multiple programs that are technically energy efficient programs, mm-hmm. but I will say I have never actually done one. But I think most of the time that's because it's just adding in that upgrade into your mortgage. So FHA, it's called the FHA Energy Efficient Mortgage, and it allows you to finance cost-effective energy-saving upgrades into your home loan without needing a separate qualification process. So they will essentially let you add on top of the mortgage up to $8,000 to be able to do solar panels or other energy saving upgrades.
That new HVAC equipment that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, you could.
And that's an energy efficiency mortgage or what was that?
Yeah. So it's through FHA, but they call it an energy efficient mortgage.
Okay.
The only hard thing about that is it does have to appraise for higher than what you're purchasing it for. Oh, okay. So to be able to finance in that extra $8,000, you have to have the appraisal value there to be able to do that too.
Okay.
So they do let you finance it in, but you have to have the value there to be able to do it.
Okay. Well, I've never heard of that, but that's good to know. Maybe it could help somebody out.
FHA has it and VA has it. So the Veterans Administration, they both have energy efficient mortgages. So yeah, that's something that's definitely can be looked into. And if it's something that you can add value or add savings for, it's definitely something to look into.
Okay.
And just to stress what Makinley said, she's never done one. They are, they're the Sasquatch out there. They're very rarely ever done. And most loan officers don't even know they exist.
Yeah.
So if you're looking about it, you're thinking about it, do be diligent in seeking out someone who has knowledge of them and how they function and all that stuff, because they're very rare.
They're rare, and they have certain guidelines that have to be met, and they have certain things that you have to do to be able to do it. And a lot of times, sometimes adding the $8,000 to the mortgage isn't really worth what you're going to be saving and what are you going to be getting and things like that. So it's definitely a larger conversation, but there are technically energy efficient mortgage programs out there.
Okay. So in addition to maybe like the energy efficiency program, the loans and stuff like that a lot of people probably haven't heard about and may not do, are there other things then that people could look at helping them and buying their homes? Are there, I don't know if there's different programs for those people.
Of course. Most of the time it's first-time home buyer programs. You're really not getting those same incentives when you're selling a home and buying new. But a lot of times you don't really need the incentives as much because hopefully you do have some equity in your house and that can be your down payment and things like that. So first-time home buyer programs, we can look at different down payment assistance options, which Georgia has a great program called Georgia Dream. And that can give first-time home buyers up to $10,000 to help with down payment. And then if you're a teacher, first responder, community partner, as they call it, they will give you up to $12,500 to help with your down payment. You also have USDA, which is a little bit more of a rural program. So it's rural housing, and that is a 0% down program. And there are some areas in Coweta County and Fayette County that fall into that rural housing, but you're looking kind of more Luthersville, Grantville, Hogansville, things like that when you're looking at USDA. And then Guild itself has a program through Chenoa, which is it will give you up to 3.5% down. There are no income limits on it, which USDA and Georgia Dream have income limits. So if you're looking at that, it'll give you up to 3.5% down. The interest rates are a little bit higher. But again, if just down payment is your problem, but you don't have a problem with your monthly payment, then again, as long as you can afford your monthly payment, let's get you into that house and building your own future. In terms of programs, those are pretty much the main ones. Obviously, if you're a veteran, you have the Veterans United program, which will give you have 0% down on that. So if you're a veteran, we can look into that option. And what I really like to say is let's have a phone call. We'll have a phone call. We talk through kind of where you're at, what you're looking like. And then once we fill out the mortgage application, I go in and I say, okay, here are the programs I have. What fits this buyer's profile? And then we can kind of go over it. And I can say, hey, honestly, I looked at it. None of the first-time homebuyer programs really fit your profile right now, so FHA with 3.5% down would be the only option that we have. Or we look at it, you have great credit, you're under the income limit, and I'm like, hey, Georgia Dream is the best option for you, so we can get you $10,000 to help with your down payment. So we kind of fit it to the needs of the buyer and the profile that they have in terms of their financial stability.
Well, as we wrap this up, I want to thank y'all so much for giving a lot of insight. It is easy to buy a house, but there's a lot going on right now. Affordability, all the different interest rate paralysis.
Well, and I was going to throw something in, especially kind of a new construction plug. Mm-hmm. A lot of the new construction neighborhoods, especially the bigger builders, they have incentives in terms of interest rates. Yeah. So not only, sometimes with those incentives, it kind of takes away that closing cost incentive that they're giving. So if they say, oh, we have a $20,000 closing cost incentive, but then they also have like a 4.99 luxury buy down interest rate, they're going to say, well, we'll give you the 4.99, but we're not going to give you the 20,000 because they are using that money then to help buy that interest rate down with the mortgage company. So if you're looking for a new home and you're scared, or looking for a home in general, sometimes those neighborhoods that have those monthly rate incentives could be a really good option for them because they're getting a lower interest rate and getting into that house at kind of a luxury rate.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
No, there's some great, it's a great time to buy. Mm-hmm. If you're a buyer in this market, like we were talking earlier with the sellers, depending on what they're going to make off their home. Now, again, you have to think they probably have astronomical equity in their houses because they bought pre-2020. Mm-hmm. And so now their house is worth a lot more. Now, they do want all that money. I mean, I'm not saying the sellers are just giving things away. They want all the money they can get. But you can get a lot of incentives from the sellers too, because they need the new house also. And there's not as many buyers out there. And so the sellers are kind of having to adjust what the buyers want so that they can get their house sold so that they can go buy their new house or buy their new construction. And again, if they're buying new construction and getting $20,000 in incentives, then they're kind of willing, oh, well, I got that 20, so I can give 20 to get rid of the house that I don't want anymore.
All right. Well, before we go, I'll do another quick last minute, just lightning quick thing just from each of you. So I'll start with you, Makinley. Number one tip for a brand new home buyer in today's market.
Do your research and pick a local lender or and a local real estate agent. If you're buying in Coweta and Fayette, make sure that agent knows the Coweta-Fayette market, knows what you're up against, knows the other agents in the community. And if you're buying in that market, also pick a local lender, because those local lenders then know the agents, and your offer looks better when they're presenting it, because they're like, oh, well, I can pick up the phone and call Makinley. I worked with her last week, or I know her from the chamber, things like that. So local lender, local agent, I would say that is the biggest tip. And then be your own advocate.
Okay. Claudia, same thing.
Yeah, that's really important. Having a team of a trusted lender, realtor, builder, and inspector is huge. I think my biggest tip would probably be think beyond today. Be conscientious about how the home is going to look in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. Buy based on your finances, not based on fear, right? And I think above all, just don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not going to come off as rude, asking about the history of a house if it's an existing home, or asking about, where this HVAC unit came from or this water heater came from. You have a right as a person that's potentially going to live in that house to know all the answers to those questions. And if the person that you're buying from or that's building your house can't answer it, then that might not be the best fit.
All right. A little warning flag there if they don't want to answer. And Scott, same thing.
Know what those utility costs are going to be as best you can. And then what is it going to cost you to keep the utility costs steady or get them lower? You want to know what those bills are going to be and what they're going to be into the future. You want to be able to control them as best you can.
Great. Thanks to Claudia, Makinley, and Scott for joining us. And thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to In the Loop wherever you get your podcasts, and join us next time for more conversations designed to keep you informed, connected, and always in the loop.